Hello and welcome to Behind the Stumps, another edition here on Sport FM. Great to have your company wherever you may be listening to us. Jack Crawshaw with you, former South African Test cricketer HD Ackerman is along for the ride as well. And it's great to see HD's smiling face. He hasn't had a great day, to be honest. Manchester United got done by 10-man Everton, which he not very happy with at all. He gets up very early in the morning, HD, and just to see your side absolutely implode. Like, you haven't had a great day at all so far. Welcome to you.
Thanks very much. It's a lovely welcome. Yeah, I've got a headache from screaming at a television at 1:45 a.m. here in Nepal after celebrating on the weekend after the Springboks beat Ireland, and the Irish haven't stopped moaning about that. And then I have to watch Manchester United lose to Everton, which is just my whole week will be miserable now. But I'll try and get through this with a smile on my face, Jack.
We're here thanks to station sponsors Bailey's Fertiliser, Bailey's Grobsorb, ensuring WA Sports Turf absorbs every drop this summer, and Cedar College WA. Happy, healthy, high-performing students, that's Cedar College WA. Well, Monty Panesar is going to join us in this edition of the show, and timely too, considering what we've seen here in Perth over 2 days. Just 2 days. That's all it needed. We just needed to see a little sample size. It was like it was the entree before the main course, HD, where we just get to see a little sample size, and then we'll move on to Brisbane, and that's when it actually starts. But, gee, it was just a game on absolute fast forward, wasn't it? Cricket on speed. It was incredible.
Well, England owe me and thousands of others an explanation, because my day off in Nepal was meant to be day 3 of the Ashes. And I'd prepared all week that I was going to stay in my hotel room and I was going to watch Moving Day. Meanwhile, I had to stare at a black television screen because the Ashes was finished. So, yeah, me and 1,000 more people, we want an explanation of what went on. No, unbelievable. I mean, with all the hype that had gone on leading into this test match, I mean, even the way England batted it in that first innings, I was like, what is going on here? Like, people running down the wicket and giving themselves room. Now, I know we always talk about the traditional game and, we're old timers and all that type of thing. Yes, the game's evolved, Jack. Yes, the game's moved forward. But you can't play test cricket like that. I'm terribly sorry. It'll work for you every now and again. But somewhere along the line, you're going to meet your maker. And that's exactly what happened with England in the second innings. Harry Brook gets 50 in the first innings. But tell me about the innings. I was just sitting there with my mouth open thinking, what's actually going on here? And then we go to the complete extreme where Australia looked as though they were just, with Smith and Labuschagne, they looked as though they were just trying to survive the whole day rather than even try and score a run. It was, I don't know, yin and yang type thing. Somewhere in the middle, we got to find that balance, because as exciting as it was, and I know it'll go down in the echelons of a great test, but I don't think it was a great test. It was quite a disappointing test.
Well, it was thrilling for people that might have been there to take it in for the 2 days, and to see the way that Travis Head went about his work in that second innings. I think that's the quite incredible bit. But just before we get on to that, we're going to talk a bit about it with Monty Panesar as well. But they made the same mistakes that every touring team makes, HD. You need to put the shots away on these bouncy Perth Stadium, but bouncy Perth, Brisbane pitches where the ball is going to bounce higher. The outside edge is going to be, the slips cordon are all in play. It's not going to bounce as high as what it does in the UK or what it will at Melbourne or Sydney or Adelaide. But it seems as if that you take this sample size of cricket over the past how many years, but it seems as if the touring team every year just still seems to get it wrong. They don't adapt well enough to the Perth and Brisbane conditions with these bouncy wickets, and they play exactly the same way.
Well, I think everyone said from the outset, if England win the first test match, fair enough, but if they lose the first test match, we know exactly what we're going to blame them for. And they had no preparation. You can't go to Lilac Hill in Perth and play on a wicket that's been played on since September, club cricket. It's slow. Yeah, it bounces okay, but it's certainly not the Perth Stadium, not by a long shot. So to me, England's preparation was abysmal coming into a 5 test match series. It's not just a fly-in, fly-out. We see South Africa playing India in a 2 test match series and Ireland playing Bangladesh in a 2 test match. This is a 5 test match series. You've got time to prepare, and they didn't. I'm pretty sure their swings are okay. because they would have played some golf as well. So they deserve the criticism that's being leveled at them. And let's also bear in mind that the Wacker is completely different to the Perth Stadium as well. The Wacker bounces. The Perth Stadium's pitch almost has that tennis ball bounce. It almost bounces an inch or two higher than what you would expect when the ball bounces. So it's a completely different surface to what they're going to come up on when they go to Brisbane, even though there's a pink ball, Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne. This is a real different type of test, which is what you want. You want different pitches for a 5-test match series. And that's, I think, the beauty of Australian surfaces is that each one plays differently. They're going to go to Brisbane, it's going to seam, it's going to swing under the lights. They go to Adelaide, that's probably going to be their best batting wicket. You know, every single one is different. But England's preparation has been poor, because I tend to agree with a lot of people that I think this is one of the best chances that they've ever had to win the Ashes. I don't think it's a good Australian side, but it's not the best Australian side that we've seen over X amount of years. And it is one of the best England sides. That attack is unbelievable bowling attack. But I don't know how they're going to keep them together now, being 1-0 down with 4 to play.
Yeah, I think the gap now between the first and the second probably helps them, though, HD, to be able to load up and go again in Brisbane.
It's certainly going to help them, because they're not doing anything. I don't know what they're doing. Are they going down to Margaret River for a wine tour or something? Because they're not playing any cricket. Now, I'm not saying Archer and Wood must play, but gee whiz, as a batter, and I was thinking from my perspective, like as a batter, I'd be knocking on the coach's door and I'd say, okay, let's forget the media and that for a second, but do you mind? I'll do it sort of clandestine, but do you mind if I go and have a hit? You know, I mean, I'd even say, do you mind if I go and have a hit for Scarborough Cricket Club on the weekend? I can play as their overseas player, but I want to bat. I need to bat. The nets are not doing me any favours here.
Yeah, it's. We've spoken a fair bit about England and the deficiencies, right? But I suppose we've got to give some credit to Australia, especially, you know, the bowling group. There was question marks on whether they would stand up without the Hazelwoods and the Cummins. And, I mean, Brendan Doggett didn't look out of place in Test cricket. And Scott Boland, again, yes, he took a bit of tap in the first innings, but was right back on it in the second innings. And Mitchell Starc obviously was just far and away, you know, a class above, taking 10 wickets for the game. But it's going to be a bit of credit there to the Aussies, because they win the game by 8 wickets. That's what's in the paper the next morning.
In particular, because there's no Cummins, there's no Hazelwood. I think it's an unbelievable performance to go and win it. Just with regard to Scott Boland, when he was bowling in the first innings, I felt for him a little bit, because he was getting a little bit of criticism from the commentators. But I think he was striving to get the ball fuller because of that bounce we talk about, and he just obviously wasn't finding that length. But it wasn't going to take Scott Boland long, and once he found it, he became the man we know. I mean, he found the length, and he was absolutely brilliant in support of Mitchell Starc. And you're right about Brendan Doggett. I just don't know if there's anyone else that's going to come into the squad, with potentially Nathan Lyon not playing in Brisbane with the pink ball. Any more injuries? I mean, I'm sure you're going to talk about Usman Khawaja at some stage, but why don't we just talk about Travis Head? I mean, what an innings that was. And I think the most encouraging thing for me about that whole innings was listening to the discussions that were had in the dressing room, and Travis Head saying, I'll go and do it. That for me is the most encouraging thing, because opening the batting, Wood, Archer, what's happened in the first innings, because they got to work over in the first innings. There's no doubt about it. As Australians, we would have been sitting forward going, hang on, this is going to be a long summer. So for him to do that, I think it's given the other batters going forward into the series a lot of confidence, because it will go down as one of the great innings of all time.
So let's get on to the Usman Khawaja conundrum then. So as Travis Head, by doing what he's done, has he forced Khawaja nearly out of the team? Because they can bring Webster in, and we know we're going to get a bowler, and we're going to get someone who's in reasonable form with the bat and very good in the cordon, right? Usman Khawaja, 39, at the back end of his career, all of a sudden, the dial is completely shifted on him. And with the fact that with the back spasms and the way that it was approached, and the fact that in the first innings he didn't get to bat until later on because he was off the field, that's put him on the nose with a lot of people. So does he get that? If he's fit, does he play, or has Travis Head nearly basically knocked him out of the team?
It's such a difficult one, because I think Travis Head, well, we know now Travis Head is so important to this Australian side. And Travis Head during the daytime against the pink ball, I'd almost think, yeah, worth a go. At nighttime, I think he might be more valuable walking in at 5 for Australia than at the top of the order. So it's almost a bit, are you a bit flexible with your batting lineup in that day-night test match? I don't think I've given it the thought it probably warrants, but because after the first innings, I'll be brutally honest, I was livid with Khawaja because I couldn't believe what had happened, that he had been off the ground and he couldn't walk in and open the batting in that first inning. I was cursing him because I thought the Australian selectors and the public and the pundits have been sitting for months on end saying, we're struggling to find someone to partner Khawaja. We're struggling. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We don't have a top 3. We find Weatherald to part with a first-class average of 37, and then the one we're banking on doesn't walk to the wicket because he's been off the field. And I'm like, what is going on here? I mean, I'm telling you now that would have piddled off a couple of teammates as well. There's no doubt about it. They would have gone, hang on. The reason why we want Marnus is at 3. That's what we wanted. We wanted Steve Smith at 4, Head at 5. Now our plans have all gone out the window. Didn't surprise me that Australia got rattled, but yeah, if he can't get through day one standing at slip, you got to move on. And there's certainly no one putting their hand up saying, "Pick me, pick me." The Mitchell Marsh thing is interesting that I hear, but I don't know what's happening around it. Whether it's a rumor, whether it's true, but that's interesting. And it looks as though Australia are saying we want someone to go to the top of the order, whether it be a Head, whether it be a Mitchell Marsh, to take the game on.
Yep. But we saw Travis Head in that second innings. It wasn't from ball one either. Like he gave himself the 10 to 20 balls to, show the new ball some respect, etc. And then when the game opened up, he just went. So I think he showed that, and he can do it in ways. Been doing it in one-day cricket for Australia. So I think he showed that he can open the batting.
He can do it. I mean, he did it in Sri Lanka again. Look, different circumstances, but I think with regard to his innings, what he did exceptionally well was the real threat at Perth Stadium is the cover drive. You can't drive length. You can play square of the wicket, absolutely, but don't do what England did and try and take on the square boundaries of 80 metres. This is not Edgbaston or Lords of 60 metres. They're playing in England, all those go for 6. In Australia, you go to Melbourne, you hole out. So, again, that's homework. That's not even analyst stuff. That's just basic. But Travis Head only drove when the ball was under his eyes. It really was full when he hit the English bowlers down the ground. But we saw what Root tried to do, what Brook tried to do, Pope. That was their mistake, driving on the up Crawley.
Yeah. And just before we go to the break, I don't know whether Cricket Australia's coffers will be too happy with the 2-day test match. HD just quietly, I reckon there could be a couple of million that have probably gone missing there.
10,000 people in 2 days. You play a test match in Cape Town, you fill out Newlands for 5 days, you're not getting 110,000. So it just shows you the value of the Perth Stadium. I feel a little bit for the people that are selling hot dogs and pies at the ground. They would have employed people for 5 days. They would have bought stock for 5 days. Yeah, England owes some Australians some money, but I'm sure that the Barmy Army will make it up with money spent on beer over the next few days.
Back into the WA economy. That's exactly the tourism department have got their thumbs up because everyone's looking for things to do for 3 days. But fascinating test match. We'll see what the next edition has for us in Brisbane when it gets underway in a couple of weeks' time. We need to clear a break here on Behind the Stumps because Monty Panesar is knocking on our door. He's ready to go, and he's going to... we're going to talk a little bit more about the Ashes with him, more particularly on the England side of things, and we'll also speak about a little bit about his career as well. He played 50 test matches for England, Monty Panesar. Of course, you're listening to Behind the Stumps thanks to our sponsors in Bailey's Fertiliser, Bailey's Grobsorb, ensuring WA Sports Turf absorbs every drop this summer, and also Cedar College WA. Happy, healthy, high-performing students. That's Cedar College WA. Back with more on Behind the Stumps on the other side of this. And welcome back to Behind the Stumps here on Sport FM. Hope you're enjoying the show, and thanks for consuming the show wherever you may be listening to us. Of course, you can get us on Sport FM via the podcast as well, or of course you could be watching on YouTube, and it's great to have you wherever you may be consuming the show. Today's guest. Now we've gone to the opposition. I think it's fair to say, HD, because we had Michael Clark and Peter Siddle the last couple of weeks. We thought we'd go to the English this week and get their perspective, and it's timely because of what we've seen in the first test here in Perth. But a man who played 50 test matches for England, 167 wickets in his 50 test match career at an average of 34. I speak of Monty Panesar, and he's been good enough to join us now here on Behind the Stumps. Monty, thanks for your time. Much appreciated.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, for that lovely introduction. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm super excited to, join you guys and join HD as well.
Yep. Now, you're in Sydney at the moment, so you've watched what's happened from afar. You're going to watch Brisbane and Adelaide, obviously, but how are you enjoying the Australian shores so far?
Yeah, absolutely love it. I love coming to Australia, and I remember back in 2006 when I first came during my Ashes, debut Test match at Perth. I managed to get 5 wickets, and always, the Australian public love me. They a lot of love, a lot of hospitality. I love giving the banter back to them. They give it back to me, and we got a great connection. Yeah, I love being in Australia.
Yeah, fantastic.
She's Pfeiffer at Perth. When are we going to see a spinner bowl at Perth again?
That's very true. That's very true. I don't think for a long time.
Did you expect that that Shoaib or Bethel would play in the first test, or did you think that they would go down the path of just playing all quicks?
Yeah, look, I think it was always going to be the case that they're going to play, 4 quicks because of the fast, bouncy nature of the pitches. And, England don't really have a specialist spinner, to be honest, to, warrant a place at Perth. So, Shoaib Bashir is a good bowler. He's still learning his trade. But, with a limited amount of first-class, experience, I think he's done really well. But at Perth, I think it was all about the quicks, and they picked the right team.
Because they haven't had that frontline spinner, and we speak of, Shoaib just before, for someone who watches English cricket a fair bit and in the spinning caper yourself, are you at all concerned about the number of English spinners that are coming through the ranks and the fact that England are prepared just to leave one out? Do you think we'll see maybe the selection change through the series?
Well, I think at Brisbane, I don't see a spinner playing either. So I think they'll go with the same 11. In my humble opinion, I think Jacob Belter's gone to Canberra to play the pink 2-day game, pink ball game, and obviously Josh Tongue and Matt Potts as well. So that gives you a clear indication when you read between the lines that they're going to probably play the same team at Brisbane and rely on the quicks to, disturb the top order batting, and it'll be hostile, it'll be quick, it'll be fast. They've got 12 days of rest now, so they're going to go with the same team again. Yeah, like I said, with a specialist spinner, if anything, Adelaide will probably be the place where they'll look to play a spinner, and because of the slow, low nature of the wickets, and that's where Shoaib Bashir could come into his own, and they've invested over the last couple of years in Shoaib Bashir because of the height, how tall he is, and they feel like that's the X factor about him, where he may extract that extra, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches, off bounce compared to Nathan Lyon, who, will get bounced, but he'll probably just won't get as much as, Shoaib Bashir. So I think that's the area where Shoaib Bashir will come at Adelaide, and they'll be hoping, they've invested, 20 test matches with him, that the reason they've, backed him is because he'll able to maybe get the left-handers out, it's either, Travis Head or, Jake Weatherall, these 2 players. I don't know about Usman Khawaja, if he'll be playing at all, because at the moment, the whole of the country is after Usman. They don't want him to play. I don't know what's happened. What has he done wrong, Usman Khawaja? I know he went on a golf course, and they're saying don't play him at Brisbane, put him on a ute, and then he can go around celebrating his career and say thank you very much, which, I think is a little bit harsher. He's done wonders. But yeah, nobody wants Usman to play, but I think they'll give him another go.
Monty, you've said that you think they'll go with the same side. Do you think that was the plan? And I speak specifically about Wood and Archer. Do you think that was the plan all along? Or do you think they were hoping to win the first test match in Perth and then be able to go into the rest of the series sort of
I think that's a great point, HD. I think that's what they wanted to do. Now they're forced to play the same 11 because of, the second innings debacle. Let's be honest. That 3 wickets that were lost in quick succession after lunch, absolutely changed the momentum of the game. And England were commanding position. You don't very often say that in Australia, an overseas team coming over, even England in Australia, where they were like effectively 100 for one, and all they had to do was half an hour, 45 minutes, just see that out a little bit, and then afterwards, they could have got to the lead of about 300. More time would have been given for the bowlers to rest, and suddenly Australia would have thought, right, I think we're going to lose this Test match. And you're spot on, because then come to Brisbane, they would say, maybe Jofra, give him a rest because his pace, he's the one whose pace drops the most out of, between Wood and him. They'll probably give Wood another go, and then Jofra can play, at Adelaide. But now they're in a position where they say, right, guys, I know what they're going to be going. They're going to say, let's play the same 11. Let's go again. Same tactics. When we come to bowl, we'll be hostile, we'll be pace. But we're going to learn from our mistakes as batters this time round. We're not going to play on the up. Maybe Joe Root could be that batsman, a bit more, Jonathan Trott like, Alistair Cook like, bat a bit more like Test match cricket style, leave the ball well, just bat time and see out the good spell of the Australian bowlers, where I think the others will just keep going hard, because that's, the way Ben Stokes, like he said in his post-match interview, the batters who were successful were the guys who were aggressive, went after the bowlers. So I think that's what they're going to do. But with Joe Root, I think that he's got to be the guy who's got to steady that ship if they lose a few wickets.
Mhm.
You mentioned rest.
No,
Sorry,
no.
Jack. I know you're eager to get on here with Monty, but you mentioned rest there, Monty. Is this? I know that Robert Key and Brendan McCullum hate the word baseball, but let's just use it for the sake of it right now. Is the way that the batters are batting, is this not a concern as well for the rest of the fast bowlers? Because they try and bat at such a pace, even if they get 300. In a 5 match series, in a 5 day test match, are the bowlers getting enough rest to be able to perform at their optimum with the pace that the batters are
I don't
batting at?
think they are. I think if in the first innings they bowl, Australia out in under 50 overs, let's say, and then England need to bat at least 60, 70 overs, to give the bowlers adequate rest. So when they come on again on the second innings, then again they can go really hard for the first 30 to 40 overs. That's where the game's going to be, I think, won or lost, when they pick up quick wickets, in that with that new ball. And if England keep getting out and they haven't got rest, the next thing under, let's say, 40 overs, like they have done here, then I think that's the point where the fast bowlers probably sit down with the batters and say, guys, for the Brisbane Test match, we need a bit more rest. Now, if you guys want to go hard, then you guys got to also put yourself in a position, earn the right to go hard, because we can't keep bailing you guys out. If you guys go hard and then get out in the 40 overs, and then we got to come out to bowl again, that is unfair on us. We saw that at Perth. All the bowlers were dropped down by 5 kilometres. They didn't have adequate rest, and I think that's where the England bowlers need to stand up and suddenly in a team meeting say, guys, you got to earn the right to go hard, because what you doing to us is unfair. We can't keep, producing hostile spells with inadequate rest.
Mm. Monty Panesar is with us. If you've just joined us, the former England spinner. Monty, the preparation, a lot's been made about the preparation, and there's the continued talk about the preparation leading into the first test, and then what happens between the first and the second test. Now, I know that Jonathan Agnew on the BBC has been quite critical of the fact that a lot of these players are not going to go and play in this pink ball game in Canberra, which is in between these two test matches. Would you have liked to have seen some of these first 11 head off to Canberra and play this pink ball cricket leading into the Brisbane Test match?
Well, I think what they could have done is the batters who kind of struggled, they thought, well, let's give them another go, and they can get some batting time. And I think that could have been an option. And someone like Zach Crawley, definitely, he could have just gone there, got some time in the middle against the pink ball. And I'm sure some of the players in the team would want to play. They're slightly afraid. Maybe they're just thinking, we can't stand up to the leadership of Ben Stokes or Brendan McCullum. Whatever they tell us to do, we have to agree with it. But it kind of seems a little bit erratic as well, because, when you've lost a test match in 2 days, you kind of look to yourself, well, this is a great opportunity. Where they lost was, the batters kind of lost it for them. And it's an opportunity for them, maybe some of the top order batters, to go and get some batting time against the pink ball, Well, they haven't done really well. They haven't done well at all. They lost the test match in Ahmedabad when they played that pink ball test there. They haven't done well at all in any of these games. And when we look at Mitchell Stark, his record is unbelievable. He's taken the most wickets in pink ball. The second coming is actually Pat Cummins. He's probably got half amount, or I think he's around 40, 41, 43, sort of that area. So Mitchell Stark's already taken 10 for. He's going to probably bowl his best bowling, looking at his stats, at Brisbane. And you haven't got any of your top order batters going to Canberra just to get some batting time against the pink ball. Kind of like, you just think to yourself, what are they thinking? This is really sort of, crazy. And they're putting themselves in the shop window now. If they lose that test match, like everyone thinks is going to happen, then suddenly the fans will turn against them. This loyal fans who've saved up for their life savings, their pensions, they've come over here to have a great time to see England perform really well. And suddenly they, are kind of like getting bowled out in 2 days. I think that's really unfair on the fans. And also the sort of, oh, no one can tell us what to do. That's the attitude they have at the moment in this England dressing room. And I hope it doesn't backfire on them. I really hope the batters learn from their mistakes. But this was a great opportunity to just get some batting time in a warm-up match.
So just quickly for both of you, right? So Ben Stokes says in his interview that stick to the process. They know what works for them. This is what works for them. They're going to stick to it, right? So philosophically, do you stick to the process generally and just back your process in, or do you need to be prepared to chop and change depending on situations in series like we've seen here, HD, for example?
Yeah, I think Monty makes a great point there. I mean, we've never really spoken about that or anyone's ever asked that question. I wonder how the rest of the team actually feel about the Stokes-McCullum leadership. I know we hear Stuart Broad speak highly about it during his time there, but it's been some time since Stuart's been out the mix now. And you wonder if there is a little bit of fear. I'm pretty sure someone like Crawley must be saying, I would love a hit. I would love to have a bat somewhere. It's a very interesting point.
Yeah, interesting indeed. That and if you sort of speak about confidence a little bit earlier as well. If you lack of it, you want to get out there and try and get that confidence, don't you? So, and there's nothing. And Monty, you can answer this. I mean, there's nothing better than actually in the middle practice, is there? Being in the nets and being in the middle are just completely different things.
Well, absolutely, and I think that's the danger. Where if you're a young batter, if like Zach Crawley, for example, where he's got a pair, and he's thinking, actually, I could just do with a bit of time at the crease against the pink ball, get my confidence levels up. Even if I get out, it doesn't matter. I know the media will write about me, but I'd rather just get some time out in the middle. And let's say if he's feeling like that. Let's say if he's just saying, I wouldn't mind playing that tour game, but he can't stand up to the leadership of Ben Stokes or Brendan McCullum because they're overpowering the players. They're telling them what to do. They're protecting the environment. They've got this philosophy of, we know what we're doing. Let us get on with it. We don't want any outside noises coming in the dressing room. And suddenly there's a player in the team who wants to play, but they can't stand up to their leadership. That could be, a big issue, in this team. If Brisbane doesn't go the way they has gone, suddenly major questions will be asked. Major questions will be asked about Ben Stokes, about Brendan McCullum's leadership. It will be asked about this question, of not playing in this pink ball tour warm-up game. That will be raised. And it depends how they lose. If they lose heavily like they have done at Perth, then suddenly the fans will start turning on them, and they may just have to then, start thinking, well, strategically, have we got it right? How we are going about our cricket. But on the other hand, they've created basketball, haven't they? They've created the narrative. They create the media hype. They love the entertainment factor. Ben Stokes loves the fact that he can bring a young player in our England dressing room and make them thrive. Like young Jacob Bethel. He's never got never batted at 3 for Warwickshire. Suddenly he's batted at number 3 versus New Zealand and he's thriving. He likes that fact that Shoaib Bashir hasn't got enough first-class experience, but when he's under the leadership of Ben Stokes, he gets the best out of him. So this is I think, narrative. Ben Stokes, Brendan McCullum love playing with the media, saying, yeah, I know what you guys are thinking is what maybe other teams and other, England captains would have done. But we're a different team. We're changing the way Test cricket is being played. We've created baseball, and we go to Brisbane, and they win that Test match. It will be the best thing for this, Ashes series. It'll be great. Everyone will start talking from a different point of view, you know, and suddenly all these critics, they will start getting silent. So I really hope for Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum and the Ashes, the brand, the Ashes, and for Test cricket, England go there against all odds and they win the Brisbane Test match.
Mm.
Monty, I just want to ask you, you've mentioned the creation of the media hype. Now, you've got the experience of having played those 50 tests for England. How difficult is it, and I know we're all in the media world, but how difficult is it to play with the English media where they sort of flip-flop a little bit, don't they? One minute you are the best and we love what you're doing, and the next minute we don't like what you're doing. Is that difficult to play under those circumstances?
Playing with the intelligence of the fans, they're not listening to anybody. They are just completely sort of self-absorbed about themselves, which at the moment how the media are thinking. They're even saying Bazball up in flames, right? So now with the English media, everything is against Bazball at the moment. They don't back what they're thinking, they don't back how they're playing, and then I think Ben Stokes and Brett, they love it because they're going to go to Brisbane. They're going to, I think they get energy from, everyone writing them off. And suddenly he'll think, I'll tell you, I'll show you how it's done. And I've got a funny feeling they're going to turn this around because that's what Ben Stokes is about. He's a type of cricketer where he loves proving the media wrong. He loves proving like he called the has-been, England ex-captains, right? Which a lot of the captains were offended by that term. And he would want to prove all of them wrong. So I really hope for Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum that they can do it. It'll be a brilliant, brilliant narrative for Test cricket. That there you go, guys. They've done everything their own way, and they went out there in Brisbane and they won that Test match.
Monty Panesar's joined us on Behind the Stumps. We've spoken a lot about the current day. Let's veer off back to Monty Panesar's playing days because we love to unpack a little bit of the story behind the guest. Monty, incredibly, your first Test wicket was Sachin Tendulkar, which you'd be in a very, very small club of people who are able to say. Do you remember it vividly, Monty? Do you remember it like it was yesterday? Can you describe exactly how it happened?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was bowling. There was Flintoff on the drive. He goes, "Come on, get him out." And I was, just so like starstruck by him. Just everything about him. Because sometimes, as a young cricketer, your only relationship with these great superstars is on the TV. So you just watch them on TV, and that's all you know. When you come face to face with them, suddenly you have to pinch yourself. I'm on the same field as Sachin Tendulkar, and I remember Steve Harmison saying to me, you keep watching every movement of his. When I was at mid-on, he goes, he's not a supermodel or anything. You know what
I mean?
I remember commentating with Sonny Gavaskar for the first time, and I mean, when I say I grew up watching him, I know he was before my time, but my late father always used to talk about Gavaskar. And I walked into the commentary box, and for the entire day, I never called him anything because I didn't know what to call him because I didn't know. Everyone else is calling him Sonny. And I was like, my father will give me a hiding. We'll go back to corporal punishment days if I have to call him Sonny. So I just didn't call him anything until the end of the day where I called him Mr. Gavaskar, and he said, please call me Sonny. I don't think I've still ever called him Sonny. But you do. You put them up in those lights, don't you? Unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
How do you reflect on your 50 Test matches, Monty? Do you feel as if you could have gone on and more, or do you feel as if you got everything out of it in those 50 Test matches?
I think I could have gone a lot more. I remember when I met Derek Underwood, and even he said to me, he goes, you're the best left-arm spinner I've seen, since his time, he's been watching the game. And he really wanted me to break his record. He thought it's time that someone comes along and breaks my record. And I just, I didn't manage to do it. He really believed in me. And I remember he gave me a letter. He wrote in the letter, he goes, I wish you all the best. You're a brilliant, left arm spinner. And I want you to, one day break that record. And I should have played at least 80 to 90 test matches. Probably would have had a chance to have done that. But he was always a big fan of left arm spin. He loved my bowling. He absolutely loved the way I bowled and everything about me. And yeah, that was, obviously I didn't achieve it because of injury and other factors, but still I had massive highs. I had massive highs. I, won Ashes twice. I won first time in India after 27 years. So there were big, big highs for me. And yeah, you always get, to be honest, as a cricketer, English cricketer, you always get remembered of your performances in the Ashes. And yeah, I'm very, very lucky. Very, I didn't realise I would get so popular. I just wanted to play one Test match for England, and I was happy with that.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be the first Sikh to play for England. That was never my, in my dreams. And I never thought I'd be so popular as well. The fans loving you because of my energy, the way I celebrated, the way I loved the game. They loved that energy of my love energy for the game of cricket. They loved all of that. So, that was never in my wildest dreams. So, yeah, I've been very lucky. God has been kind, and I've been very lucky indeed.
Underwood did play on uncovered wickets. I hope you told him
Well,
that.
I did.
But
I did say that to him. I said, by the way, that's half your wickets were, on uncovered pitches. So, I probably should beat your record in 50 Test matches. And
Monty, on one of those highs, not with ball in hand, I've been desperate to ask you about this. I think it was 2009 Ashes in Cardiff. England batted well in the first innings. Australia batted better in their first innings. And suddenly, from a position where you might have thought you guys were in the position to win a test match, now in a position you had to save a test match. And you walked to the wicket with about 11 and a half overs to go, I think it was, at number 11. And your partner was James Anderson. Tell us about that moment.
yeah, well, the funny thing was, my bat sponsor said, he said, I could quickly get you the bat stickers and you can put it on your bat. And I said, give it to me at Lord's, I'm sure I'll probably get a chance to play there. Little did I know that my bat sponsor afterwards wasn't happy with what happened 45 minutes afterwards. So as I walk up the crease with no bat sponsor, I'm thinking I'm going to get out. I average 4, by the way. So that means an outside edge through the slips goes for 4, an inside edge, somehow, trickles towards square leg, and then I'm out, right? So like my batting I'm not known for my batting. And as I went out to walk to the crease, I remember at the time, Andy Flower said, look, we need to see how the tail can wag a little bit. So Paul Collins was my batting buddy. And even Jimmy goes to me, just whatever Paul just told you, just stick to that. Short back lift. If it's at the stumps, protect them. If it's short, drop your hands down. And the same thing against spin. Jimmy goes, I'm not going to follow the line. If it spins past my outside edge, just leave. Don't go after it. Just leave it there, and I won't. The ball won't edge. And we kind of like stuck to that game plan, ball by ball, and over went, next over went. Jimmy goes, well, let's just keep going. Let's see how far we can go. He goes, we're eventually going to get out. But that time never came. That time never came at all. And I remember even when the 12th man of Australia, 12th man came on, and Ricky Ponti was saying to me, Monty, we're just taking the drinks list. What do you want? And I went, I don't want anything, mate. I thought, what a cheeky bugger. But then after 69 balls later, when I shook his hand, I said, it's a double vodka and lemonade, please.
I mean, what was mad about that was it was Nathan Horitz and Marcus North who bowled quite a lot of you. They didn't bowl a lot of quicks at you in that last sort of 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And I was slightly surprised by that. They went off, with the off spin. And, I was very surprised, why that was the case. But then even recently now, I was with Michael Clark and I said, why didn't they, bowl Clarkey? And even he said, I should have probably bowled. I probably would have got, one of you two guys out. But they went with the off spin. They thought the off spin will get the wicket against the left-handers. And that just never, it was turning too much. Honestly, it was just turning massively. It was just beating the outside edge so easily as well. I think all they had to do was bowl an arm ball or something like that. But, that never happened. It was that pivotal moment in English, history where everyone started believing that, yeah, we're gonna be a hard team to beat. And our goal was in 24 months to become number one, and we did it in 18 months. So yeah, it was a huge factor. It was massive for everyone, and I was very fortunate to be part of that.
Now, what did you ever? I read the other day in a column that you early on I think it was early on. It might have been midway through your career. You're talking about the working on your version of the Dusra, a ball which obviously goes the other way. The off spinner's sort of version of the googly. Did you ever perfect it, Monty? Did you feel as if that you got it down to a fine art in the end?
I don't think I ever bowled a deucer in my life.
Yeah.
But, sometimes I like to sort of just maybe possibly, I don't know, the media hyped it up. They thought I can bowl deucers. Now, I was an orthodox left-arm spinner, bowled a quick turner, bowled the orthodox spin, had an arm ball. I tried my best to get the deucer up, but it was very slow, like at 50 miles per hour, and it would, turn slowly as well. It was just a difficult art for me. So I just stuck to my strengths, which was a strong stop delivery with pace, and either it turns or it doesn't. And I kind of just stuck to that, to be honest.
Mm.
Where did you? I'm going to say, where did you prefer bowling? The subcontinent, or places like home or South Africa or Australia? Because I'm sure bowling in the subcontinent comes with its own pressures as a spinner.
Yeah, look, I think bowling in the subcontinent, what Andrew Strauss was very good at when he captain and even Alice Cook, they got me on early. After 4 or 5 overs, they saw me as a third seamer and they said, right, bring Monty in early. He bowls it with pace. If he gets to turn or skid on, he'll get that sharper turn with a harder ball. That's the key when you're bowling in the subcontinent. And we're just seeing right now, with the South African spinners, Harmer and Maharaj, they're like performing so well because they're coming on to bowl a little bit earlier than they need to be. And a harder new ball with that pronounced seam, you get a bit more sharp turn. When the ball gets a bit softer, then the turn is a bit slower. And even though you beat the outside edge, the batters can sort of kind of like, leave those kind of balls. You need the sharp turn, and that comes from a harder new ball. So it's so important in the subcontinent, you bowl with a hard new ball. And then in England, it always turns in England from the rough, from, straight. It's the Duke's ball again, and it's a, hard ball. And you get that sort of nice live grass. If you can catch it, it kind of like, get a bit of turn from there. And while I enjoyed bowling in England, absolutely loved it because I knew I was always in the game if I attacked the stumps. If I wasn't able to get the ball to turn quickly, then quickly I can wrap them on their pads and try and maybe get 1 or 2 wickets before lunch, and then get the seamers back on, and then try and come back in later to mop up the tail. But in Australia, it's a lot more difficult. It's about the flight. It's about getting revs on the ball. It's about beating the batsman in the air, then off the pitch. You can't just bowl darts because you won't able to get the turn and bounce. And that's why I have huge respect for Nathan Lyon, because the amount of revs he gets and the shape he gets on that ball is beautiful. So in
Mm.
Australia, it's about the shape of the ball in the air, that then you'll get the turn and the bounce off the pitch, which is the hardest art for a spinner. And I think that's why it's such a difficult place for a finger spinner to do well in Australia. But if you can get good shape on it, where Nathan Lyon does, and I feel Shoaib Bashir, his shape isn't as good as it could be, but his advantage is his release point is so high
Mm.
as an X factor. So I hope he does well. I hope he can find that extra bounce that Ben Stokes has invested in him. But overall speaking, for a spinner to do well in Australia, the shape on the ball is absolutely vital.
Mm. Monty, last one before we let you go, because we know you've got so much going on. Whose turn is it to return serve, you or Steve Smith? There's a bit of a battle. There's a better battle going on off field than there is on field at the moment between you two.
To be honest, I get great pleasure in sitting on my sofa and rattling the Aussies. They were completely rattled, And when Steve Smith said to me about my mastermind antics, well, I sort of said, as cheek and tongue, I know I'm bad at general knowledge, and I'm still trying to find where Auckland in Australia. Haven't found it yet. And for me, I know my general knowledge is bad, and he obviously had his got into a bit of a sticky point with the sandpaper scandal. But generally speaking, obviously I came back with saying, I've made my mistake on a quiz show. He's made his mistake on a cricket field. We both got to live with our mistakes. So it's a bit of banter, a bit of cheeky banter, and
Yeah,
It was lovely.
and everyone
good
loves
fun.
it, mate. Everyone loves it in Australia. Everyone's loving it. Everyone's loving the fact that it adds a bit more spice to the Ashes. So
Yeah.
yeah, everyone's loving it.
No, No, I think we're all enjoying it. Don't worry about that. Hey, Monty, good on you. Thank you for your time. You've been great with us for Sport FM. You're going to feature on the breakfast show still over the next couple of weeks during the Ashes, but really appreciate your time on Behind the Stumps today, and enjoy the rest of your time in Australia.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Monty.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show, and I look forward to being on the show in the next few weeks as well.
Good on you, Monty. There he goes. Monty Panesar with us here on Behind the Stumps. We're back with more coming up. Wrap things up on the other side of this. Behind the Stumps with Jack Crawshaw and HD Ackerman here on Sport FM. And if you're watching us on YouTube, great to have you with us. Monty Panesar, what a man who he understands the game, HD. There's no doubt about that. But also his battle off the field with Steve Smith is something that I just happen to have just a little bit of a chuckle about every single day. I'm waiting for, I think Monty had the last say, so I wonder whether Steve Smith will get asked about it in a press conference or an interview he does in the next few days, and whether he'll return serve again. But very, very, very exciting. It's entertaining. It's exciting off the field, and it's entertaining off the field. The battle between those two.
It's Ashes cricket, isn't it? The hype around it. There's absolutely no doubt that. I mean, I loved reading all the articles and the headlines in the Western Australian leading up to the Ashes. There was a point there where I even thought that the Western Australian was a tabloid newspaper, not realizing. Because it really is good. But what Australia have done exceptionally well, though, Jack, with regard to the media, is that I think they've already managed to turn the English media on their own side, and that's a battle in itself when it comes to the Ashes.
Yeah. Now, HD, Nepal, give us an update. What's the state of play in the Nepal T20?
By the locals, the locals are doing quite nicely. Josh Brown got 60 the other day. Josh Brown, who played for the Brisbane Heat. Will Basisto has probably taken the catch of the tournament already. The Western Australian who plays for University in Perth. Chris Lynn has promised he'll catch up with someone at some stage. That's for sure, because he's hit a couple of lusty blows, but he hasn't got a big score yet. Martin Guptill, his side's playing nicely. The Bharatnagar Kings. So Guppy's done nicely, and nice that he's returned to Nepal, because he came last year. And he struggled. He got 1/2 century and then did his hamstring and sort of hobbled his way through the tournament. And he has openly said that he came back because he really enjoyed the tournament and he wanted to sort of repay the tournament a little bit. So he started really well. But I've said it to you before, it's a wonderful tournament. It's sold out. Every game is sold out. Yes, it's only about a 10 or 12,000 seater stadium. But the fans are what makes this tournament, because there's many T20 leagues in the world, but not many can say, other than maybe the IPL and the Big Bash, that they sell out every single game.
Yeah, no, it's great to see. It's the Nepal T20 competition, which HD's commentating on over there at the moment, and they're loving it, no doubt, over there in Nepal. HD, when we come back together next week, South Africa could have well knocked over India 2-0 in the series over there in the subcontinent, which would be incredible for South African cricket.
And win 2-0 would certainly answer a lot of critics after they got to the World Test Championship final. There's a lot of critics that are actually in Australia at the moment that don't live in Australia. There's the hint. But they're in Australia that said South Africa don't deserve to be in the World Test Championship final. They've beaten nobody. Well, they've gone to Pakistan. They beat Pakistan in Pakistan. They've gone to India, and 1-0 up in the series. They could go 2. That'll keep a few quiet.
Yeah, no, it would be incredible if South Africa could do that. They've had a very good time over there in the subcontinent. Behind the Stumps here on Sport FM. You can catch us on YouTube as well. We'll see you again next week.